The average meal of every locale ever. Surprisingly though, that doesn't include DSP, but the guy doesn't have any taste anyway. We open this one with the Detective World Fair finally underway after 10 episodes. Kokoro was of course that mascot thing or whatever, and the art instructor revealed his contribution to the fair. Yeah, you're clearly a genius of plagiarism there, dude. Okay, so my little explanation. This is meant to be a reference to the Tower of the Sun, a famous artistic monument in Japan, located at the Expo Commemorative Park in Suita, Osaka. It was created by a Japanese artist, Taro Okamoto, for the Expo 70, the first World's Fair that was held in Japan. The tower, like it is in this show, was a centerpiece to the Expo's pavilion, embodying the theme of progress and harmony for mankind, which I guess that's a way of interpreting this thing. Still, I guess it resonated enough that it does get referenced a lot in anime, like in Pokemon, 20th Century Boys, and apparently even Hunter x Hunter, where the Heavens Arena is meant to represent its themes, though not exactly its unique shape. Anyway, with the fair underway, it also meant that Milky Holmes had failed to get their toys back in time like they promised themselves. That said, they still figured that they could make some sort of comeback at this fair by entering into a mascot contest. However, even that required that they have toys, though fortunately, I guess, this little weirdo had a solution. Moriarty suggested that they look for an ancient artifact. Oh great, it's just gonna be another variant of Pot of Greed, isn't it? Look, considering how ridiculous the game is nowadays, you may as well unban it if only to make the memes more relevant. But yeah, she said it would help them restore their toys, and she even had a piece of the jar that she stole at the end of the last episode that could help them find it. Specifically, it would guide Cheryl to it because, as we see later, it resonated with anyone with Sherlock Holmes' bloodline. A bloodline that I'm sure has no connections with someone named Moriarty. To be fair, if you did live in England, you would kind of prefer some better foods. Case in point, the Lard kid who is returning from delivering transfer papers to Holmes Academy students who were overseas, and apparently didn't care for their lard. And yeah, call me crazy, but I think there are some better foods out there than just plain old pig fat. However, I guess some addictions die hard, and there was a convenient meat bun seller at the dock who had lard buns. I don't remember the bar from Bao making one of those, and probably for good reason. Anyway, he got his bun from yet another Ghibli-esque character because I guess this anime is just obsessed with getting some sort of reaction out of grumpy old man Miyazaki. However, before he could enjoy his bundle of cholesterol, Milky Holmes ran into him, knocking it into the water. He tried to get another, but kind of understandably, they didn't make many of those things. He then tried to get some fried lard on a stick, which, considering that fried butter exists, yeah, that actually sounds kind of plausible, unfortunately. Why, yes, our country is known for having problems with obesity, why do you ask? But yeah, predictably, this became a running gag, with them even revisiting the lard ramen from episode 2. And honestly, while it's not one of those jokes that starts off funny, it does get a few laughs out of me after a few repeats. Still, it is just a minor joke in the grand scheme of things, and I'm sure it won't lead to anything else later. Anyway, after all that running and patronizing fat kids, the shard finally started to lead them to the jar, which ended up being back at the ruins of the Holmes Academy and underneath said detective's statue. They found the aptly named Pandora's jar, which of course Moriarty revealed was an artifact that had sealed away a ton of calamities. Though in this case, it didn't contain all of the evils that had been sealed away by Zeus, but rather Sherlock Holmes, who had taken the toys of a bunch of thieves from his time. And as his descendant, Cheryl was able to play the role of Pandora and unleashed all of the evil toys. At the same time, the Lard Kid was unearthing some of his secret stash, which hopefully wasn't for more than 6 months or else that stuff is gonna go bad. Not that it really mattered, because you could guess what happened next. Oh god, they got some of that very questionable censorship for Spy Family. Yeah, at that point you may as well just go with blood. Anyway, amongst all the toys, there's one that Moriarty wanted and managed to take. Gee, I wonder which one of Sherlock Holmes' enemies' powers she would want to take. Okay, this joke is kind of run its course at this point. In any case, I'm sure she'll at least make for a decent final boss of this season, or we'd have to wait 4 more years for that. Yeah, believe it or not, we wouldn't get any sort of follow-up to this storyline until at least 2 whole series later, which, yeah.
Man, this is some bullshit!
Now, I will say right now that this character didn't take too much away from the story of this season, and she did play a significant part by setting off the events of this plot, but yeah, it is annoying that she does feel more like a plot device than an actual character. With that said, who is going to be the final boss this season, considering that Henriette and Mori have bailed?
See? There's that ham again.
Yep, the Lard kid named Buta was going to be the final boss of the season, with him pulling a Kratos to absorb the Calamity released from the Pandora item. Though in this case, it wasn't to seek vengeance against Ares, but rather Milky Holmes from constantly preventing him from dying of a heart attack, really. Which, yeah, on paper, this sort of twist does sound kind of stupid and silly. I mean, what could they do with this sort of a character? Well, the answer to that is, of course, anything they want. For starters, he managed to develop his own unique toys, Lard, which let him absorb all of the lard and larder-like products in the area. Now, with just the former, it doesn't sound that bad, other than removing pork from the menu for a lot of places, but that latter element, well, that pretty much encompasses all sorts of oils, including something that all mammals produce. So, little biology lesson. Sebum is a natural oil that our skins produce 24/7, which basically acts as a protective barrier against germs and the like, and also prevents moisture loss. It's what you feel every time you kind of rub your fingers together, and why we leave behind stuff like fingerprints. So, what would happen if we were to lose it? Yeah, for an over-the-top magical girl series, they did their research. So yeah, Buta actually became a legit threat through what you'd think would be one of the most useless powers ever, which is surprisingly hilarious and awesome. That said, he also still had access to the toys of the Phantom Thieves of the past, like the ability to turn everyone dame-dame. I mean, to be fair, it's not all bad. However, Milky Holmes managed to avoid both of these toys, thanks to being covered in lard that was absorbed in place of their sebum, and the fact that they were already dame-dame and couldn't get any worse, really. Thus, Buta decided to take it up a notch. Oh god, he turned into Coyote Stark. Well, here's hope he has a bigger role here than he did in Bleach. Yeah, hilariously enough, Buta's VA switched out to Rikia Koyama, I guess to just give him more of a final boss vibe, that he'd even repeat for this franchise, again 4 years later. And I will say, having the original voice of Yoshikage Kira is a hell of a way to end your episode on. For the first half of this episode, there really wasn't too much, and then once Pandora's jar was opened, holy hell. I mean, not only did they pull off some pretty hilarious twists, but they were even pretty creative and clever. It's the kind of stuff that you watch anime for, and it was just executed brilliantly. Normally, I wouldn't necessarily be a fan of these sort of out-of-left-field twists, as it just feels like they're doing it for the sake of it. And yet, for a series like this, not only is it somewhat expected, it's kind of anticipated, if only for the fact that Milky Holmes can just go all out with it. That said, and even though there was a little build-up with that running gag of Buta never getting his lard, I don't think anyone could have predicted a Final Fantasy-esque final boss with a guy who has the power of lard. It's a sort of insane setup that you can both laugh at, and yet also find insanely awesome for all it is. If I had to complain about anything, I would say it is a little aggravating how Moriarty's plotline wouldn't go anywhere, at least this season, after she pretty much orchestrated this whole endgame. Still, at least it didn't take away from the pure entertainment value of the BC Lard Lord, making just for an insanely entertaining start to the final arc of the series. Lard is actually a pretty tasty fat, though if it's all the same to you, I think I'll just stick with my butter. Thanks for watching, and if you're not too concerned about heartburn, well, I think you could survive watching some of our other videos. We've got something new coming out almost every day, and have even started editing together a new long-form video essay for later this month. Look forward to whatever comes next. Until then, though, for now, my friends, and, jeez, why does my skin feel so dry? Oh, right, I'm on a beach.